Layered text effects are really fun to create in Affinity Photo and any other type of photo manipulation software. The secret behind it is taking an image and working with typography in such a way that makes it look like it's part of the image. So here I have just the general quick expression called Dream On that's filtered into the image of just what is green leaves, and then we later added some floral elements to the photo to give it a little more depth and a little more color. This video will be focusing on that, how to create these effects, how to make them look like they belong, even though realistically when they're initially typed they're over top of these images. So there's all these different layers that end up being blended in such ways to make them look and fit like they should. So let's get going, and we'll start by sourcing the main photo in the background with a new document and work our way back to this final point. So I'll leave this open and create a new document, probably just opening that image to get the initial size. So I'm going to find that in our start folder here. We'll have that image and there'll be credits. If you're a pro subscriber, you can go ahead and download these and you'll have the fonts and everything here to use at your disposal. So we'll have this ready to roll. This is going to be our in-game size. So the actual size here is 3,648 by 5,472, which is pretty massive, probably bigger than we need, but I'll leave it as is for now, just for the sake of brevity. So I'll save that down in our in folder and we'll start to go right away. So already this image looks pretty good. There's some tweaks we can do to make it a little more vibrant. So key term there is vibrant. So we'll use the vibrance filter and just bump that up basically 100%. Just makes the greens a little more green in this photo, which is what we want. So I'll add that. I also want to add a typical curves adjustment that I do, and it's just a slight S curve is what we're after. So we'll just kind of notch out this bottom quarter and then notch up this top quarter. And then with those done, we can basically call that good. We can maybe even increase the contrast more if you want it to be even more punchy, but I think this in general is okay to start with. So we'll keep that grouped as just the background. And we're going to be referencing the base layer later when we add some shadows beneath the text that we're going to be using. But until then, let's leave it as is. So the next stage is to add our text. And to do that, we're going to be using a font called Big John. I already have it installed, so I'll type each letter individually and make them their own layer. So here I have a D. You can barely see it because it's tiny, but let's go and type Big John to get the font we're after. And then I'll make the fill white. And we're going to scale this pretty large, like 288 isn't even enough for this image, which is the max of the presets. So let's make it like 700. Okay, so it'll be about this big. We could probably go bigger. Our document here has it quite massive, but up to you how big you want to go. In the end, I think it's just going to matter based on what you feel works the best. So we have our D there. I'll just go down the line and create all the letters for the expression. Maybe we'll do even more, like 950. Really big is what we're after. So we can kind of simulate what we did here just to kind of have the same effect for the end result that we're after. So maybe I'll place those accordingly, something similar. We want to have some elements of the text being overlapped by the actual image. So that's the key to making this look a little more realistic, but not every letter needs to. So bear in mind with that kind of issue. So this is kind of right there. Other than that, we're looking pretty good. So at this stage, I like to outline the text. If you're set, you're happy with the way it looks, the expression you wrote, all those things, you can outline all the text. And to do that, you can convert to curves. So still, I think these could be bigger. And I think at this point, I'm just going to do that manually. Maybe make them about, say 800 pixels in height. Since they're all about the same size, feel free to vary the sizes. Like maybe the R here can be a little smaller and the E could be a little smaller. The D is going to be the lead-in text, so it'll be a little bigger. The M's probably kind of big. It kind of gives a perspective element to the composition too. So if some letters are more forward than the others, it might make for a little bit more depth in the photo. And we'll just refer to our first one here just for grins. Looks like the A is a little further over here. The M's in good shape. This could be raised with that. So the next step is to give these text elements some style. We'll select each, and they're currently filled with white, but I want to add a little more noise than what we have. And I'll go up to actually our fill panel. Looks like it would be here. And I'll press this switch to noise indicator here when you're on the opacity meter. And you'll notice the noise displays, so you can bump that up quite a bit just to give some more dynamic feeling to that letter. And it's actually, I have the N selected down here so you can see it in action. So it kind of gives it a bit of a concrete or stone feel, which is what I'm after. With that in mind, I want to make a style out of that. So I'll actually right click and create a style. And you probably won't see styles up on your UI at the moment, but you can go and access that in View, Studio, Styles. And there's a default category. You can append to it or create a new one if you want to create a new one here. I'll leave it as is for now, and we'll just actually rename this style to, let's see, layered text effect light. Something like that, just to give a reminder of what it would be maybe later if you're working in the app. So from there you can select all the letters and apply the same styling so we have it uniform across each. Great. So it's subtle, but it works. So next I want to add some shadows to each as well, and we can select each by shift clicking on each in the layers panel and then hitting the FX icon here, the layer effects, and we want to have a outer shadow that's pretty large, so I want to make this pretty bold too. And I think the angle will be I think it'll be 270, and then we'll increase the radius dramatically, like 100%. You can adjust the offset to your liking. This mainly just pushes it down if your angle is at this angle, or if you want to go up, it'd be this angle. I think I'm going to keep it at down at 270 and just kind of maybe 3/4 of the way up. And intensity just makes it a little bolder. I think opacity and intensity go hand in hand, so you can maybe have one more of the other. So that's already said and good. We can go ahead and continue on to make this look a little more like it fits into the composition. We could probably get rid of our styles panel for now. So I'll save that down just so we have it. From here, I want to start masking. And what's going to be useful here is the fact that we want the letters to appear behind some of the leaves as opposed to in front of each. So right now it looks like they're just floating, and that's okay for some, but some I want to actually have behind parts of the leaves just to give more depth. So I'll maybe resize a few of these again. Some are feeling a little large. So for each one, the D I think I'm going to leave alone. The R, this part of the stem right here, I'm going to have masked out. So what we'll do is create a mask on that layer, and you'll see it here. And then you want to grab a dark color as your foreground. Get the brush tool out, and you can increase the hardness maybe halfway and the opacity about 100%, and you'll start to see a preview as you curse over the R itself that is starting to take away that piece. So what we want to do is ever so lightly go across, set the opacity of the actual curves layer down to like 70%, just so you can see the leaf underneath so you don't paint too far. And you notice I just painted on the wrong layer there, so we'll want to undo that, Command Z, and select the mask layer below. Then I want to paint on top of that mask just to get rid of that bit of the R that we don't want. So you just do this as close as you can get to that edge without going over. It's okay if you go over, you can undo it by swapping your foreground color to a light color and painting back in the piece that you want back. So I'll show you here, I just as an example. So this bit I went a little too far. I'm going to swap these colors and come back with it. You decrease the brush size with the bracket keys. So already that's looking like there's more depth to the image. So I'll bump up the opacity again, and now we've got our R all the way back. Okay, so if we're referring to our original, our E is kind of left alone, our A and M and N are all masked. So I'll do that for each of these. Okay, so with each of those masked out, you see the results here are looking good. We can still amp this up a little more and create some more depth by adding some shadows where those leaves hit the letter. So the way to do that best is to duplicate bits of that image that we referenced from the very beginning and create a copy of a selected portion of it, and then create a new layer with that copy and put some shadow behind it. So I'll show you what I mean here. First, I'm going to group each of the letters just to have them all in one spot. So we'll just say letters. And then the group below will be our background layer. We don't need to duplicate it necessarily, but you can if you want. But what I'm going to do is go get our pen tool and just draw an area close to like this around where we did mask originally. And then I'll just make a rough selection with this. So I'm going to draw just this shape. And with the pen tool still selected, come up to the contextual menu and hit selection. And you'll see a selection appear. So from this point, we want to keep this layer selected. And you'll want to go to Edit, Copy Merged, or Shift Command C. So from there, you can hit just Command V. And you'll see a new pixel layer appear. And what's great about this is it's only this bit that our selection was compromised of, and that's what we want, because we want this layer to appear over top of this one. What we can do to blend that in maybe a little better on our own is just to kind of brush that lightly with a very soft hardness and opacity down, just to kind of make that blend in with a dark color on our foreground color, of course. And the reason I'm doing this mainly is so we can add one more layer, that's a pixel layer, and we'll have a dark color active, and we get an opacity layer. And this is just going to be a way to brush in a shadow behind this element, putting the pixel that we cut out and on top, and this new one that we're going to brush is going to be behind. So we want to brush that in. Probably ungroup these for now, because we probably need to get these pixel based layers above the A, yeah, just like that. And you'll notice that's way too dark for now, so I might start over and create a new layer again and get our brush tool and set our opacity pretty darn low and just faintly go over that spot that we masked originally, not too far, because you don't want to go crazy on this. But you do want to make that shadow realistic. So it looks like we went a little too far there. You can always subtract more with a mask on that layer. I'll probably undo it for now though. And what we can do is decrease the opacity some. The end result is the fact that we can have a shadow behind the leaf on top of the letter. So that's the end game. And that's kind of what we're after in that regard, because it makes for much more depth. So we can repeat that process for all of these letters that we masked. So I can do the same for the R. So I'll do that now. Okay, so with that done, we have some more realistic shadows going on, and that's making it a lot more friendly on the depth level to me. So I think the fact that the D is up front, the R is kind of in the background, the E is kind of more up front, and so on and so forth with all of these. So they're all just kind of part of the image now. I'll probably move maybe this over to make it a little more balanced. But from there we can start to add in some floral elements, and I found a photo that I'll use to crop out the flower itself in our start folder and get the rose a white rose, and we can recolor it whichever way we want. What I'll do is get the quick selection brush tool, just go around the flower itself, get as good as you can get, let it kind of do the job, the selection brush tool, and from there you can refine it. So we'll hit refine. We'll go and just do another selection as the output. We just want it to kind of refine that, just using the default settings. And then from there you can do the same edit copy merged. So I'll probably just do Shift Command C, and then we'll go back over to our document and you can paste that in just as is. So that's great. And from our original concept, we have just a few going on in the image to accent everything. So what we'll do is a similar pattern, and maybe we'll use a different color in this photo, but actually probably use the same, because there's this little flower petal here that I kind of stem from to keep that orange color intact. So let's first place these, and I'll just hit Command J to duplicate that one. You can maybe rotate it to kind of give it some variance, increase the size, and do the same down below here, maybe something like that. And we could zoom out. Oops, looks like I didn't duplicate that one. So with these, I want to add some depth as well, so we'll add some shadow to each. I could select them in the layers panel and do some effects. And we can use the effects panel to do this. I feel like I might, we'll see what that looks like. I might have to brush in the shadow I'm after to get this the way we want. Something like so, increase the radius. That's okay. So it's a little dark. Maybe this one in particular, maybe we'll just do it on all, get that effect going, and decrease the opacity some, maybe 60 or 50%. There we go. I might move this one up a little further into the corner. Just want some of that shadow casting over the E. Awesome. So you could leave it as is and call it good. I feel like I might, that shadow's still a little dark. I might decrease that some more. We'll fly with that. What I want to do is make the color of the flower a bit different though. I think I want it to be more of an orangey look, I should say. So I'll go to recolor in our layer adjustments, and it only needs to apply to these. So we want to actually put, we can either group those, which I'll probably end up doing, and then do this just to those. So within that, we can get this recolor filter, maybe change the color to orange, a deep orange. And it's going to look fake at this point, but what we can do is bump up some of the contrast, or decrease the contrast or brightness and increase the contrast. And then you could do the same trick with curves as well in this case. So we'll do that S curve thing again, and you'll see what happens. Kind of makes it look a lot more realistic. So with that all said and done, that's essentially the composition at hand. So this is how you would create that layered text effect. It's more or less a combination of layer masks, noises, textures, and then just creating elements that make it look like they fit on a page. Tricks you can take back home with you is just to be able to copy merge little selections out of photos and place them in others. That's a great way to combine photos into one and make it look like one great composition in the end. So that is our final piece. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or want to show off what you created, feel free to leave those in the comments below. As always, a pro subscriber can download these assets. Go ahead and check that out if you're interested. There's a free trial to start. And from then on, thanks for watching, guys.